Joining us now, Lieutenant Colonel Ollie North. Colonel North, let's get your assessment. I want to go back to the same line of questioning I had with Secretary Pompeo. I understand the need for intelligence on the ground and even boots on the ground for Israel. However, if you know where the network of tunnels are, why not use sophisticated new military technology and take out as many of those tunnels as possible from the air and not risk a ground incursion where, like our troops in Iraq, we didn't have this technology, are going to be stepping over IEDs every other 10 feet or so?
Well, first of all, Sean, Israel's attack plan is much more sophisticated than it's coming across in the media. The campaign in Gaza isn't just one point of entry. It's all along a 30-mile-long border. There are zones of action, prep fires. They're going to have to clear buildings, then clear entire city blocks, and they're going to shoot back. That's the rules of engagement that they've got. Return fire. They're going to do everything in their power to avoid inflicting civilian casualties. They've got devices and they've got munitions that are not widely known that they're going to use in those tunnels. There's ways in which you want to make sure that you're not, good Lord forgive, if all those hostages were banded up in one long tunnel that got attacked by Israel. We'd pay for that for decades. So what we're looking at is a situation where these guys know what they're doing. What I'm more concerned about are the questions you asked the good secretary, and I'm glad he's on with you because he's a dear friend and I have enormous respect for him. But what took place on the 7th of October that took the lives of at least 30 AMSETs could not have happened but for Iran. If they turn Hezbollah loose from their bases in Lebanon and Syria to attack Israel, it should not come as a surprise that Iranian-built missiles, whether they're fired from Iran or from Lebanon or from, God forbid, Gaza, that they will soon be firing at U.S. naval assets in the Mediterranean. The president should immediately, tomorrow morning, announce all existing sanctions against the regime in Tehran will be immediately enforced. And he's going to have to immediately lift his own self-imposed shutdowns on fracking and drilling and reassure the American people we're not going to run out of fuel. And by the way, refill our strategic petroleum reserves. Number two, if Hezbollah attacks Israel, the U.S. will hold the Iranian theocracy responsible and act with devastating effect to prevent further threats to U.S. personnel and assets. Number three, the president should also direct the U.S. Department of Justice to indict the terrorist leaders like Yahya Sinwar and Hamas head of state Ismail Haniyeh, the so-called Hamas foreign minister, for killing at least 30 American citizens ever since the 7th of October. And though we don't have an extradition agreement with Qatar, an Interpol posting of those guys' faces in airports around the world might keep these thugs from traveling freely around to the whorehouses that they're known to visit. Number five, he needs to order the National Guard to secure our southern border immediately. Number six, notify the Iranians that if Hezbollah attacks Israel, we will shut down Iran's entire oil export capability. That's one of the things that the secretary was just referring to much more diplomatically than I did. That should make all those who are filling the Ayatollah's coffers with billions, as you pointed out, will bring some pressure to bear on Tehran. For example, Beijing might just pick up the phone and say, hey guys, knock it off. We need your oil. And finally, we ought to offer al-Sisi in Cairo U.S. air traffic control and logistics assistance to open a major secure refugee facility and humanitarian food, water, and medical support facility near Al-Arish International Airport in Gaza. I've been there. I've seen this in Sinai, rather, just south of Gaza. And that border crossing could become an enormous refugee center in which we get the biometric data on every refugee waiting to avail themselves of food, water, medicine, and shelter, and the kinds of things that we're trying to ship across the border and Hamas is stealing. That's it. 7 points.
Colonel, you were on my shows so often post 9/11. We spent a lot of personal time. For me, it was some of the getting to know you, being a best friend of yours was like a dream come true for me. I grew up admiring you. It's one of the reasons I got in this business. And we spent a lot of time together. I didn't like a lot of the 9/11 Commission report, didn't agree with it, didn't think it was firm enough. But they got one thing very, very right. They were at war with us. We were not at war with them. We have been witnessing literally tens and hundreds of thousands of rockets fired into Israeli cities. It has been going on for year after year after year. We've known about this network of tunnels for quite some time. if the takeaway from the 9/11 Commission was they were at war with us, we weren't at war with them, what part of these rockets fired into Israeli cities and this network of tunnels built to kill and capture Israelis was not any indication that they were in a full-fledged war against Israel? Why did it take October 7th?
We are still the great Satan. The little Satan is the Israel that they want to destroy first. That's number one. Number two, we have allowed, particularly since the Obama administration, and now certainly in this administration, the Iranians to get away with all kinds of terrible things. And the Secretary was wise to point out and remind everybody that we took out the architect of what a lot of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps and the Quds Force have done around the world to make enemies of ours able to carry out attacks on Americans. That's the kind of leadership that we desperately need back in Washington.
All right, Colonel North, stay with us. We'll get back to you throughout the evening as well. Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.